Saturday, Saturday. Do what you want on Saturday. Watch cartoons, ride your bike, eat whatever the heck you like. Oh, yeah, we live for Saturday. Good morning, friends and foes. Good morning, multiverse. This is Back of the Cereal Box, the pop culture podcast that celebrates the fun of the Saturdays of our youth while navigating adulthood. I am your host, the prophet of pop culture, John Pyka. You can call me Johnny Beyond if you dare. And this morning, we are going to be taking a deep dive into the 1980s classic weekday series, She-Ra. And to help us do that, please welcome my co-host, all the way from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. She is our emotional support Canadian, the Peppermint Princess. She is a fan of all things comic book, cartoon, in particular, Power Rangers, X-Men, Ninja Turtles, Transformers, you name it. Please welcome the one, the only, Willow Skylor. Good morning, Willow.
Good morning.
So, Willow, I was about to tell you this story off air. Yesterday, on my way home from work, and because I had a tour that was canceled, my tour group no-showed. So I got to go home early. So
Yay.
I on my way home, I stopped by Barnes & Noble. And I went in there to look for a board game that I've been looking for months called Tales to Amaze. It's the Unmatched series, Tales to Amaze. And I went in there going, they're not going to have it. I've been looking there every week, every Tuesday for months. They're not going to have it. And I go in there. Oh, they had it. So I had to get it. And lucky for me, I had just gotten paid. So I had a little disposable income. Now, I don't have it here to show off this morning. I will be showing it Wednesday during Wednesday Night Bites. For any one of you who don't know, we do a Patreon-only live stream where you, our audience, can actually be on camera with me. And Willow wasn't able to do
Johnny,
the last one.
Nice tease.
Yeah. So you can come on camera, and I will be showing off Unmatched Tales to Amaze. And speaking of being a patron on Patreon, we need to thank our Cereal Box super friends. They're the ones that make this popular and possible. Eli Cash, Phoenix Sisters Cosplay, Charisse Collins, Dave Mattingly, Valerie Davidson, Anthony Sakovich, Clyde Hall just joined us as a brand new patron. Day One Comics, George Soroy, Larry Amiet, Elliot Latham, Robert Alsup, and Greg and Crystal Jones. And you too can have your name in lights by clicking the link or typing the link that's running along the bottom of the screen, scrolling as we do the show, patreon.com/cerealboxpodcast.
Thank you for being a friend.
I love that, Willow. That's great. You've been waiting to do that.
Yes.
Now, for those of you who are just tuning in, Willow and I are pop culture mavens. I am a fan of all things comic book. As a matter of fact, Avengers comic books, Star Wars movies, and Saturday morning cartoons made me who I am today. And Willow, I mentioned that you love X-Men, Transformers, Ghostbusters, Power Rangers. What else? Everything, really.
Pretty much anything. I was addicted to Saturday morning cartoons. Pretty much anything that as I aged, I found new loves. Like the 90s were great for cartoons.
So
even to the 2000s, like there were some great cartoons that you had to kind of sift through some of the crap that much like pop music, but
so if you haven't figured this out, Willow is a child of mostly the 90s and
80s and 90s. Yep.
I am a child of the 70s and 80s. So my focus is a lot on the 1980s series, some into the 90s that we're going to be talking about. But, when I was a kid, that was our Saturday morning cartoons. And we were sitting down with big bowls of cereal, watching cartoons, reading comic books. I was watching kung fu movies, Godzilla movies, pro wrestling. Saturdays were all about fun. And that's what this show is. That's what this show is. Yes, we've got a healthy first day with my new tongue, folks. Healthy dose of nostalgia. But we want to relay it to today. We're celebrating the fun of the Saturdays of our youth while we're navigating adulthood today. So there's a lot of nostalgia, but our goal is to introduce you to something that maybe you've forgotten, never heard of, and help you find a new favorite and celebrate all of that cool stuff. Now, we're called Back of the Cereal Box because when we were kids, we didn't have smartphones or tablets at the breakfast table on Saturday morning, so we were reading the back of the cereal box. And this morning, I've got, once again, the Captain Crunch Cinnamon Crunch, and it's got a great back of the box with games and puzzles and a great little story about, Pierre Lafute. And so that's what is in my bowl this morning. Willow, what's in the bowl?
I raided the Dollar Tree.
Uh-oh.
And
did you get a bunch of minis?
No, I found this is interesting. I found like maple banana chips.
Ooh.
And caramel and cinnamon. So I'm gonna try it and see if it'll cereal. Haven't done that in a while, eh?
Will it cereal with Willow Skylor? And Will It Cereal is brought to you by ranch flavored Pop-Tarts.
Okay, seriously, that would actually be a thing. I'm positive.
I think it is. Guys. I think it really is.
I don't understand the obsession with ranch on everything.
Neither do I. I live in this. It's a Southern thing, okay?
Maybe as a Canadian, I don't understand ranch, but I don't know. People just seem to love it on everything. I'm not a ranch fan.
Not me. I am very particular about matching the right sauce or condiment to the specific food I'm eating. Like the other night, I made steamed broccoli and cauliflower, and I love raw vegetables, and I want them just barely steamed so they're still crunchy. And my family's pouring ranch on it, and I'm like, you guys, I drizzled a little bit of hot ginger sauce. Oh my gosh, did it make that sing? I mean, it was just phenomenal. And they're doing ranch. And I'm like, you got to try this. And they're like, no, thank you. Anyway.
So I took a little bit of each flavor and added it to my bowl. So
okay. So banana chips.
Banana chips.
I'm not sure how I feel about this, Willow. Let's see. Will banana chip cereal?
I like the flavor, but yeah, probably not the best cereal out there. It's made in Vietnam. Great for snacks.
So at first I thought made in Vietnam may be a big red flag. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to stick with that. Our
But
What's in the Bowl segment is brought to you by Entertainment Earth. They are one of our affiliate sponsors. So when you buy something through our link, which will be in the show notes after the show, you help us out. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it helps us out a little bit. And I'm going to show you something that Entertainment Earth sent me for new loot. So before we get to that, though, Willow, look at all the comments that we already have this morning.
yes.
And for those of you who are commenting, this is how this works. You get to comment, you get to be part of the show, and we want to know what's in your bowl this morning. And by the way, I'm still sticking with my rating on Captain Crunch Cinnamon Crunch, a 4.5. Because
Okay.
the cinnamon is so faint. It tastes like regular Captain Crunch, which is normally a 5. But because they're promoting it as this big special thing, I got to knock it off a point. It's still delicious. All right. So, Eli T. Cash is with us. Navigating adulthood. Yeah. Looks back at the fire heap.
I still haven't figured it out, and I'm 40. I'll be 42 this year, actually.
Well, I'm going to help Eli figure it out today because he's going with me today. We're taking a little road trip. We are going to the grand reopening of Hitchhiker Toys in White House, Tennessee, which, get this, Willow. So, White House, Tennessee is the next town over. And that's where I go to get my new comics, at Dragonfly Comics and Collectibles. Hitchhiker Toys has been on the other side of town, but they moved next door.
Oh.
So we've got Dragonfly Comics and Collectibles, Hitchhiker Toys, and then in the third store, the little card shop. Collectible cards and sports cards and, Magic the Gathering, Lorcana, all of that. One each beside the other. And I am redubbing that whole plaza Geek Street.
Nice.
So we're going to go to Geek Street this morning, and then we're heading down to Columbia, Tennessee, to drop off a gift for our erstwhile co-host, Aubrey, who's not with us this morning because she moved and is still unpacking. But we're going to take her the brand new microphone that our patrons so graciously allowed us to get for her. Eli T. Cash also says 90s and GRI release the monkey. What am I not hearing here? 2000 hashtag Invader Zim. Is that release the monkey something from Invader Zim? I've never watched Invader Zim.
That I kind of stayed away from. I think that was one of the many cartoons that I couldn't get into around that time.
Speaking of Aubrey.
Oh, good morning, Aubrey.
Aubrey says, though I am not on camera, I am in spirit in chat. Hello and good morning. So Eli T. Cash says, Cinnamon Toast Crunch loaded, basically CTC with vanilla cream. It gets soggy too quickly. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but I'm okay. I'm going to go along with you there. Look, most cereal does get soggy way too quickly. But you know what? That just gives you an excuse to go ahead and wolf it down and enjoy it in the moment. If you want to spread it out and do granola, do grape nuts, they're perfectly good long period cereals. And Andrew Milden says, good morning. Eli T. Cash says, ew, I got to think it's about the banana chips, Willow. Or maybe the hot ginger on the steamed vegetables, because Andrew Milden says, what song did the vegetables sing? Probably something from VeggieTales. Yes. And if I had to pick, they would sing, "We are the pirates who don't do anything. We just stay at home and lay around." You know what?
I
Those
think we
guys,
should have like I'm all for having like a tribute to VeggieTales on our show one day because yes, I loved watching it too, and
well,
there are certain songs that are stuck in my brain.
those guys live here in Nashville.
Oh wow.
And I used to see them pretty frequently when I was in the music industry. I would run into them. Maybe I can track them down to be on the show.
Mhm.
Tabby Cat says, "Good morning, y'all. Good morning." Brandon Palmer says, "Rice checks this morning." Listen, rice checks is totally respectable. And if you've not had the cinnamon rice checks, oh, maybe next week I'm going to get the peanut butter rice checks. That's
Ooh.
brand new. I've not tried it yet, but I love peanut butter cereal. So that could be really good. And let's see.
Invader Sim was a messed up cartoon for messed up people. That's
That's from
around
Eli
that
T.
time. My
Cash.
life was already messed up enough. I didn't need a cartoon to emphasize that.
And Cartoon Commotion says, "Good morning, homies." And Eli T. Cash says, "Really? The hashtag VeggieTales crew here in hashtag Nashville." Yes. Yes. So we'll see what we can do. I loved VeggieTales. Now, that came out when I was well into my adulthood, but dang it, they're clever. The pirates who don't do anything, I mean, I could listen to that every day. I love that song. And there's a couple others that I just absolutely adore, but that's fantastic. So that's all the comments that we have so far this morning, which means, Willow, we can move right into our next segment. And this is brought to you by our friends at tfaw.com, Things from Another World. And that is our cereal box prizes, or what we like to call new loot. Now, I probably should have moved that around. TFAW should probably sponsor Cereal Box or What's in the Bowl, and Entertainment Earth should sponsor New Loot. But they're both fun loot providers. And Willow,
Yes, sir.
you were clapping your hands like you're excited about something that you have.
No, I just like watching you unveil something.
So when we were kids, they still put toys in the cereal box. We would reach in, root around, and get the prize out. And this morning, I've got a special prize that was sent to me by Entertainment Earth. And, you know, this show is full of nostalgia. And one of the most nostalgic things of my youth was my obsession. You've heard me talk about it a lot with the Mego action figure lines. And a couple of years ago, they started reproducing them. And this morning, I'm so excited. Willow, you're about to freak out. Because this morning, I got, this is the back. You see who it is.
Deathstroke. Ooh.
Look at that. And this is the Diamond previews, Diamond Comic Distributors exclusive, limited to 5,000.
Oh wow.
And isn't that gorgeous? It's maybe one of the best Migos I've ever seen. Fantastically made. And of course, the costume comes off. And I've been holding on to this one for a long time, but I'm going to show this one as well. Speaking of Mego, this was the final one I needed to complete the first wave of the 50th anniversary collection, the classic Penguin. And these are about to come out of the boxes and go on the display shelf in my office. But this takes me back to when I was a kid in the 70s. They stopped making the classic Mego in 1980. And so it's cool to have them coming back and making a resurgence, and to see some new iterations. There's a whole new wave getting ready to come out that I am super, super excited about. And Willow, since we're talking about a cartoon series from the 80s, I just got to show off two more things. Absolutely. If that's okay with you.
Go right ahead.
So this is a facsimile issue of Amazing Spider-Man 252. The introduction of the black suit, the Venom suit. And this is reprinted from 1984, maybe. Let's see. Does it say the original year? I'm sure it does somewhere, but I can't find it. It was the 80s. It was the 80s, and I was in 7th grade when this came out. Spun off of Marvel Superhero Secret Wars. This is a facsimile of issue 1. Both of these are on comic book shelves right now. They just came out last week. And what makes these special? Well, if you've seen the show before, you know that these are recreations of the original issues as they appeared originally in publication, with the ads and all. So, you can win a F-16 fighter jet, a model kit. Look at this. These are, I don't even know what these are. These characters, I guess they were, there was an action adventure cassette, an audio adventure. I don't even remember that. But great Ron Friends art in Spider-Man. This was my favorite era of the series. Here's some more great ads. And I think, Willow, you've heard me talk about how I got into magic through an ad in a comic book. Right here's the ad, and right here's the magic kit, the Blackstone magic kit. I sent away for this sales kit. I had to sell 10 boxes of Olympic greeting cards to get the Blackstone magic kit.
Oh, wow.
Dun, dun, dun. The rest is history. And the Marvel Superhero Secret Wars facsimile is exactly the same. The original art, original ads. This is Mike Zeck art. Jim Shooter wrote it. And dirty little secret, Willow. This came out when I was in Secret Wars came out when I was in 8th grade, not 7th, 8th grade.
Oh,
but
wow.
In 7th grade, I wrote a story that was basically Secret Wars. And I was going to send it to Marvel, and I never did. I even drew illustrations. I'll have to see if I have those. And 6 months later, Secret Wars hits the shelves. Like, either I was inside their head or Jim Shooter was inside my head.
I have the same issue when it came to stories that I've created or characters that I've created. And I was working on a superhero spy character in way before Max Steel came out. And I'm like trying to figure out all the details, and then all of a sudden Max Steel, I'm just like, well, there goes my character. And it was a female that I was working on, not a male.
That's funny. Now, do you have any prizes from the cereal box this morning?
Unfortunately, no. I have to be an adult and didn't go shopping.
Listen,
but
adulting is hard. Adulting is overrated.
Yep. So
let me tell you what. So the cinnamon Captain Crunch is really good.
Mm.
4.5 out of 5 bowls of cereal. But the milk, oh,
It's so much better. I will have to. I do have to say this though. I'm so sorry. Um, my store. I work for PetSmart.
yeah.
We have Care Bear stuff at my store for animals, and they look so cute. So I want to see pet photos of your dogs or even cats, if you can get a cat into it, dressed up as Care Bears.
Ooh. Now, does your store sell animal costumes with the Care Bear stuff?
Yes. Yes, there's like sweaters that looks like the cheer bear. Well, this isn't cheer bear, but like the cheer, like the rainbow
Yeah,
insignia, and oh,
that's fantastic. So, we've got some more comments. Let's see. Where are we at here? So Tabby Cat says, I got no belly button. LOL, silly songs with Larry. I don't remember that one. Oh, we're going to have to do an episode on VeggieTales. Eli T. Cash said he got a book called The Art of Usagi Yojimbo for $30 this week.
oh,
Usagi Yojimbo is not a character that we really talked about very much during our Ninja Turtles episode, but the Stan Sakai comic series is one of the most popular series on shelves today. He's still making it. There's a new series that just launched maybe 2 weeks ago called Usagi Yojimbo in Space. So, and Tabby Cat says, oh my god, an OG penguin jaw drop. Okay, so this is not an original issue, Tabby. This is a reproduction of the original in the original style packaging. And the only way you can tell the difference is because the box insignias, and it obviously has the 50th anniversary sticker on it. But yes, it is the OG penguin from the original line reproduced. And Eli T. Cash says, "Walk, walk, walk, walk." The penguin. I think he didn't say "walk." I said, "Walk, walk, walk, walk." That's what he did. And let's see. Eli T. Cash says, "Emo Peter Parker suit."
I thought we don't speak of that.
So you know what? There were moments of that movie that I loved. Then there were moments of that movie that weren't so good. I actually thought, if you go back and rewatch it now, I think Topher Grace was actually a fantastic Eddie Brock. We just, as fans, we had this expectation of this, big beefy guy, and Topher Grace isn't that, but he played the part perfectly. It is a case of an actor really embodying the role.
He has come into his own quite well with a lot of his roles that he has done over the years, and I will say that Topher Grace is definitely a underrated actor.
Yeah,
and he should be used more.
Yeah, just go back and watch his performance as Eddie Brock Venom in Spider-Man. Spider-Man 3, and see what I'm talking about. And listen, the time separation from when it first came out to now really actually helps that movie age really well, because we're away from the expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about this a lot, Willow, that fan expectations really can sink or can really sink a franchise. And George R.R. Martin has been talking about it this week on social media, how he is disgusted with the toxic fandom, how every demand does not need to be met. Their every expectation does not need to be upheld. They need to, in his words, sit back and enjoy the ride the creator is creating for them. I believe that wholeheartedly. That's been my mantra for as long as you've known me.
I've had to delete several fan groups from my Facebook page because I couldn't take it.
Yeah.
And
so anyway,
sorry. Yes.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
The thing that drives me nuts about a lot of the fan groups is how you're trying to enjoy conversations with other fans, but then there's so much anger and nonsense from people who it seems like haven't even read the comic books or watched
the movie. Yeah, like all of the hate against the Marvels, which was a great movie, by the way, but it got tanked by people review bombing it before they even saw it or have still never seen it and call it trash, and that's just wrong. Yeah. But there was something else I was going to say on that, but that's my soapbox daily. So Aubrey says, love mail away ads. And Eli T. Cash says, Invader Zim came out when I was in the 8th grade. Max Steel was my jam, says
it was a
Andrew
great
Milden.
Show. Like I sit on my I put away my character that I created. Her name was Cassandra Steele, but I put her away for future uses, trying to figure out where I can like sneak her in and some stories. But yeah, just I feel robbed.
Tabby Cat says OG style penguin, LOL, still Fabu. Yes, it is. And Tabby Cat, you got to see my entire collection of Mego. And speaking of which, Corey Flood asks, is it pronounced Mego or Migo? This is a debate. I, for 50 years, pronounced it Mego. Why? Because it's spelled M-E-G-O. Just like Lego is spelled L-E-G-O. If you pronounce that Lego, then you have to pronounce that Mego. So that was my assumption. Now, in recent years, people have been pronouncing it Migo. So yes, I pronounced it both ways this morning because I'm trying to conform, but I shouldn't. I said a couple of weeks ago, I'm going to call it Mego because that's how it should be pronounced. Mego.
Until you hear the people who created it say it, it's like it still sounds wrong.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. The guy who took over is David Abrams, and he is the son of David Abrams is the founder. His younger brother Howard, who would say Mego 2, and that's why David Abrams named it Mego, because his little brother would say that. But Marty Abrams is the current owner, and he pronounces it Mego, but I'm just so sick with Mego.
Yeah. It's Mego. Like the argument of GIF or GIF, and you hear the guy who created it say GIF, and it's just like, that's wrong.
Yeah. Molly Daniel says, good morning, finally awake, maybe. Eli T. Cash, Mego is what you call Lovecraft's race of monsters, the Mego. You know what? So you make another case for Mego. Guess what, Willow? So one, for those of you who are just now tuning in, you see the banner scrolling along the bottom. That is our Patreon, patreon.com/serialboxpodcast. If you like the show, consider becoming a member at $1 or $2 a month. You can contribute more. And at any level, you get access to a special Patreon-only live stream where you, the audience, get to come on camera. with us. And you get advanced sneak peeks of Back Issue Breakfast Club. They go to Patreon a month before they go to YouTube and Facebook. So you get to see them first and exclusively for a month before anybody else. And there's other cool exclusives like original artwork. I just posted, Willow, for download for all of our patrons, my original piece of artwork of the Rocketeer, Hellboy, Lobster Johnson, and Captain Midnight attacking the enemy who's just off panel. It's very cool, and only our Patreon supporters can get the downloadable version, and we might be even publishing a colored version.
Ooh.
It's just pen and ink illustration right now, but I'll be doing one of those every month. Also, we are moving all of the release information for my Tales of the Decoverse series to Back of the Cereal Box Patreon, and that includes advanced artwork for the League of Impossibilists and Eli T. Cash's Wenches and Wormholes series set in that universe. And if that weren't enough, you can get exclusive cool swag. You can get exclusive access to Saturday Magic Matinee with Johnny. I'm not doing any live shows this year. It's all going to be virtual only and only on Patreon.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot for $1. That's just, bare minimum. But if you really love our show, pony up for $2. And if you really, really love our show, pony up for $5 each month. The $5 and $10 levels get merch. Now, if you hate our show, invest at the $100 level to help us improve. Mm-hmm. That's all I have to say about that. Now, it is time for Weekdays 101. And, we've been talking about the essential Saturday morning cartoons, but we just started this series on the essential weekday series. And what have we covered so far? G.I. Joe, Transformers. And after all of that testosterone and mecha, I thought it only appropriate to honor my co-hosts and to introduce some girl power, the princess of power, She-Ra.
Hi, I'm She-Ra.
By the honor of Grayskull. Yes. Now, tale of the tape. Adora is known by her alter ego, She-Ra. She's a fictional superheroine in the Masters of the Universe franchise. It was introduced in 1985 by Filmation. The series was called She-Ra, Princess of Power, which reveals her to be, spoiler alert, the long-lost twin sister of He-Man. She-Ra appears again in the 2018 reboot, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. There was a series of toys under her name produced by Mattel in 1984, and she has also appeared in a number of the Masters of the Universe comic books, episodes of the series, and most notably in DC Comics 2000 to 2018 Masters of the Universe comic series, roughly 1,000-page single story arc. And there's a whole lot more. And in a minute, we're going to hear from one of the creators, but it was created by Michael DiTilio, J. Michael Straczynski, and Diane Keener, voiced by Melanie Britt from 85 to 87, and then in the reboot, Amy Carrero, and some other voice actresses along the way. Her nickname, Princess Power, the most powerful woman in the universe. She was human, Eternian, and you had an interesting take on this that I didn't realize until you mentioned it. what did you say that this story basically was? And by the way, we watched the first 3-part story or 4-part story, The Sword of She-Ra, which is her origin. And what did you say, Willow?
I said it. I didn't notice this until I watched it, and now it looks very much like. Oh, I brain farted. Holy crap! I'm so sorry.
Old age is a bow and arrow.
Yep, my
green
brain
hat,
is shot.
merriment, Robin Hood.
Robin Hood, thank you.
Before we went live, you basically said it felt like just a retelling of Robin Hood.
Just from the female perspective. But
and I hadn't thought of that until you mentioned that, and you're absolutely right. It is, you know, a story about an entitled rich kid, Adora, who in this case she's kidnapped, but there's an evil warlord who is enslaving his people, taxing them into oblivion, and one of their own, Adora, rises up to lead a rebellion to take him out. It is the Robin Hood story.
And what I also said was, it looks like it kind of reminds me like a D&D interpretation of Robin Hood with the costumes, because it's kind of like a mixture of fantasy and medieval armor.
Yes, with a lot of heavy science fiction. So this is Adora in her She-Ra form. A lot of Wonder Woman vibes for me. Here she is transforming. She holds the sword above her head, and she says, "By the honor of Grayskull, I have the power." And she had a winged horse, Brightwing, who was a normal horse, but when she shared her power with him, he, you know, transformed into a winged unicorn. And he was a very cool character, actually. Very cool. And here is one of her allies. And, I'm not going to remember his name. He wields basically a lightsaber. Let me see if I can find. I can't find his name. I'm such a bad host. But the main villain was Hordak, and Hordak had his minions. This is Scorpia and Catra. Basically, Hordak had a harem. He did, because Adora was his force captain. She basically, here's the story, guys. So she was born on Eternia, but Hordak kidnapped her and took him with her to Etheria, where he raised her to be the force captain of the Horde of Etheria. And He-Man is tasked by the princess to take the other sword, the twin sword, to the Sword of Power and find its rightful owner. And it turns out that was Adora. And when Adora touched the blade, her memories, her goodness came back. She shed the evil spell put on her by Hordak's vizier, the Shadowcaster, which, by the way, was also another amply shaped woman. Seahawk, that was She-Ra's boyfriend. She had another, and that comment came to us from Corey Flood, and she had another male compatriot called Bo, because he used a bow and arrow. Glimmer, there was a winged heroine, and basically, other than Bo and Seahawk, the rest of the characters were, you know, her girlfriends. And Hordak, as I was saying, he had a vizier, the Shadowcaster, a wizard who was amply figured, obviously a subservient female. And he had his harem. And I didn't realize that until just now. Hordak was living a harem fantasy.
I had some of these toys.
Okay.
Like the little, I think they were like 6-inch figures. And I remember having Catra, and I swear she had a tail.
No tail.
I swear she had a tail for her figurine, though.
Well, she transformed into a panther that did have a tail.
Yeah. But after watching the show, I'm like, holy crap, she kind of reminds me of Eartha Kitt's Catwoman.
Yeah. Very much. Very much. And, during this 4-part series, we discovered that Skeletor was Hordak's student, and that there are all these connections. And basically, Adora is the twin sister of He-Man. And basically, at that point, Willow, by the last episode, I was like, you know what? This is Star Wars. Think about this. So this came out in 1985. They were producing the toys in 1984, but Return of the Jedi had already come out by now. Now, I don't know if they were inspired by Return of the Jedi or if it just is a happy coincidence. But basically, He-Man and She-Ra are Luke and Leia.
Yep.
So anyway, now I had some thoughts about this. I never watched this when I was a kid. I was a teenager I was 15 by 1985. I was not into the chick flick animated series. So I was aware of it, but I never watched it until this week. And watching it, I was struck by a couple of things. I thought the animation was exceptionally good. It was so flawless and seamless and smooth. The scoring was just gorgeous. And what really struck me was that the characters seemed more intentional and more fleshed out than the He-Man characters, which were just, oh, we're creating this toy, put it in the show. And Willow, this week I was privileged to have in the studio Wednesday night Rob Lamb, he was a scriptwriter for She-Ra and storyboard artist, but he also worked on Black Star, He-Man, and Lone Star. And well, let's just go to that interview and see what Rob Lamb has to say about She-Ra. Please welcome the one, the only, Rob Lamb. Good evening, Rob. How are you?
Hey there, Johnny. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Super excited to have you because you and I have chatted before specifically about He-Man, and I think a little bit about Black Star because you worked on both of those, didn't you?
Yes. Black Star was the first, that was 1981. That was the first year I was at Filmation.
Okay. And then you, and that was a Saturday morning show, Black Star.
Yes.
And then you worked on He-Man, which was, there's been some debate about this. So you can clear this up. Was He-Man the first true made for weekday animated series?
As far as I know, I don't know if there was anything else that was done before that. At that time, everything that was on weekday afternoons was reruns from Saturday morning shows. And so He-Man was the first run syndication.
So did He-Man come out before G.I. Joe and the Transformers?
Yes.
Okay.
We had, for the first year, we had the entire weekday afternoons to ourselves.
All right. And so that explains a lot about the G.I. Joe series because, they put up 2 miniseries as a trial,
Mhm.
2 5-part series, and then they ordered a full series, 65 episodes that they did all at one time. They completed all 65 episodes before they distributed it, and I think it shows.
Yes, and what we did with He-Man was that we wanted to have 13 weeks, 5 days a week. That equals 65, and that was based upon the 13-week schedule for Saturday morning. But those were only 13 episodes. So multiply that by 5, we had to do 65 that was what was sold to the stations.
Now, did you do all 65 in one block, or was there like releases?
Let me give you a timeline. It took 8 months from script to screen for each episode. So we had multiple episodes being done simultaneously by different crews.
Gotcha.
We had a production schedule that we were supposed to get 2 episodes every week out of each department. Now, in storyboards, it took about 4 to 6 weeks to do a single episode in storyboards. So we had about a dozen guys working on it, on different episodes that would come in every week. We'd get another 2 episodes, another 2 scripts. And so as production ran along, we had several shows in production at different at the same time. And everything worked backwards from the air date. We had to make sure things were started in script form 8 months before it was going to air. So, and there was a penalty if for some reason a show was lagging behind or had to be redone or anything like that, and we missed an air date, there was a financial penalty to the studio from the stations.
Talk about pressure.
Yes, because they couldn't sell first run advertising for a rerun. They couldn't get the same rates, and so there was great incentive to hit the deadline. So a lot of overtime, a lot of working on weekends when the deadlines came close.
Well, we all know the rest of the story. He-Man was a huge smash success for Filmation and Mattel. And along comes She-Ra, Princess of Power. Now, you told me in correspondence that you were a scriptwriter on She-Ra for the first season, and then the second one you were doing storyboards as well.
Yes.
So talk to us about, we know the motivation of the studio must have been, or was it driven by the studio, or was it driven by Mattel to capture the girl market?
It was a little bit of both. The He-Man toys did very well. The TV series did very well, and there was some, feeling like the girls were being left out. And so I remember that I had I was in the writing department. I had joined the writing staff. I moved from storyboard to writing during second season He-Man, and we went right into first season She-Ra. And we did a field trip to Mattel headquarters in Hawthorne, California. And the toy designers were presenting the toy designs. Now, part of it was they had come up with some more villains called the Horde that they had intended to be for He-Man. But we were done with doing the He-Man show. And so those became the villains for the She-Ra series and the Fright Zone and all that. So, the villain designers, a bunch of guys, they were showing how creepy their characters were. Then they would leave, and then the designers of She-Ra and Glimmer and Cast a Spell and all that, basically they were repurposed Barbie dolls, and they'd show, and see, here's where She-Ra's cape can become a skirt, and she has shoes and a purse. They were doing all that kind of stuff. So it was interesting. They were trying to maximize the material that they had, but we developed a lot of the storyline on She-Ra. Larry DiTillio was instrumental in doing that. And so we had the presentation from Mattel, and then we took it and developed into a series.
So as I've been watching this series this week, watching the first story arc, a couple of things stood out to me about She-Ra versus He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I really felt like there was more intentional thought put into the characters of She-Ra. That there was, I really felt like a lot of the He-Man characters were just very, hero of the week, generic to sell toys. But it really feels like that with Adora and Glimmer and even Hordak, that it was a more intentional storytelling. Is that true?
That is very true. We had a lot of experience doing basically 130 episodes of He-Man. We did 2 full seasons. And after that, the stations didn't want 2 full seasons. They just wanted 1 season that they could repeat over and over again. So, but He-Man, because it got ahead of, it was the forerunner, we had a lot of that. And one of the things that those of us in the writing staff said, we want to take it up a notch. We want to develop the characters more. We want more of a backstory to what's going on. For example, one of the scripts that I wrote was called Micah Bright Moon. I came up with Glimmer's father, Micah, and I wanted him to stay around, but because of some restraints that he wasn't, because they didn't show the shows in sequential order, there was some concern that why isn't King Micah here when he was there? So I had to get him out of the story at the end, that I got to go fight against the Horde. I'll come back later. But we really did try to give more background to the characters, flesh them out a little bit more.
And I felt like as well that even the animation was just a step above. Very, very clean, very smooth. A lot of people have always said that, He-Man was maybe the pinnacle of Filmation's animation, but I really think She-Ra might have been.
Well, I'll tell you, when you're doing this sort of thing all the time, and what He-Man provided was year-round employment. Saturday morning shows, we would work for about 6 months and be laid off for 6 months. And it'd be a mixture of, some shows were cartoony, and other shows were more realistic, like Black Star. With He-Man, we had all these episodes where people were drawing realistic characters, and the animators got better at it. And so by the time we got to She-Ra, there was a lot of skills that had been refined. And I would say that from an animation standpoint, I'd take it one step further, even past She-Ra, to our last series, Brave Star. The animation in that is superb. And again, it was from that arc of increasing skill at doing realistic characters. But yes, I would say She-Ra had better character animation, and overall it was better.
And I was really struck by how well crafted the score was. It really felt like a film score on these episodes.
Yeah, we had an in-house composer, and I would sometimes go down to his room to see what he was doing, and the different themes that he was coming up with.
for those of you who don't know, that was really a hallmark of Filmation's shows to begin with. You know, I recently rewatched the Filmation DC superheroes shorts from the 60s. And those had fully orchestrated scores, and, you know, the animation was synced to the music. It was, you know, it wasn't as high quality as what you were doing, but it was clean, it was crisp, it was clear, and it was just real quality. And so that really shows in She-Ra and what you guys were doing there. Now, are there any little tidbits or factoids that our audience might not find on their own that you would like to share before we let you go?
About She-Ra. Well, in the beginning, in the early scripts, there was a challenge because the character of Adora was so strong that we had to rewrite some scripts because it started to become the Adora show, because she was really interesting. And then at the very end,
she was the force captain for Hordak.
Yes, and so there was more to do with her. And in the first few stories, She-Ra was more of a come in at the end and clean up the mess. And I remember seeing the memo saying, "Look, this is not the Adora show. This is the She-Ra show." And so we changed the story structure to where each episode would open up with a good action scene with She-Ra. So it would at least have that to begin with. And so that was a challenge in the writing, is to make sure that She-Ra didn't take a back seat to Adora. So we tried to develop them both strong, you know, with strength in both characters.
All right. So along that line, for those of you, this is a little spoiler alert. If you've not been watching Masters of the Universe Revolution on Netflix, the final scene of that show introduces the force captain for Hordak. We never see her face because she's wearing a Horde mask. We all know who it is. Those of us who, you know, are familiar with the source material.
Yeah. Was
there ever a time when Adora was masked or intended to be masked to indicate that she was part of Hordak's Horde?
Well, if you have to go back to the very first episodes.
Yeah.
We did a feature-length film, pilot really, called The Secret of the Sword. And that was distributed theatrically. It contained the first 5 episodes of the series, edited down a little bit. The 5 episodes have a little bit more footage than the feature film does, but she is right in there, you know, Hordak's right-hand gal in the beginning there. And there's some tension there as she's discovering that everything she's been told all her life is not all that it seems to be. So yes, she started out as a, you know, tried and true member of the Horde.
But did she ever wear the mask? Or in early designs, I'm talking about. Because in the show she never does.
I don't recall.
Because spoiler alert, in the Netflix series, that's how we meet her. She's wearing a mask, and so anyway, that's cool stuff, man. I could talk to you about this all night, but we don't want to keep you. We know that you're a busy guy, and show off your hockey jersey.
Oh, I've got to show this. This is usually Battle Cat. This is the Grayskull Battle Cats, number 83, which is the year that He-Man premiered. And this is, saw a fan wearing this at the Owensboro Comic Con last October. And I said, I got to have one. And my wife, love her, she got it for me for Christmas.
And it's from Geeky Jerseys?
Geeky Jerseys.
So
Give
cool.
them a plug. They do fantastic work. It is really, really well made. And they have some other ones from Masters of the Universe. They've got an Orko one. I think they have Man-at-Arms. They have a Castle Grayskull one. And then they have jerseys from other franchises. So I'd say, go take a look at them. They were very well, and they're numbered. Like this is 37 of 300. So they just made a limited run.
That is very, very, very cool.
I'll give one more little plug. My wife and I will be guests at the Lexington Comic-Con in, let's see, that's the first full weekend in March, I believe. This
wow, right around the corner.
Yeah, 7th, 8th, 9th. Yeah.
You know what? I've not been back to Lexington Comic-Con in maybe 10 years, and my family lives there. My aunts and uncles, everyone I went to college with at EKU is there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm making a commitment. I'm coming up to Lexington this year.
Come up. Hey, you got a place to stay. That's a plus.
Yeah. My aunt and uncle have an apartment for me.
The convention runs Thursday through Sunday. We're just going to be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Very cool.
Very cool. So check out, and do you have a website, Rob, that folks can visit?
Yes, it's robertartwriter.com.
robertartwriter.com.
Yeah, it's 3 words run together.
All right. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thank you so much for sharing some of the under the hood, behind the scenes info on He-Man and especially She-Ra. And can't wait to see you again. And with that, we'll say farewell to Rob Lamb. Have a great rest of the night.
All right.
Oh, Willow.
That
did you?
Awesome.
Yeah. Did you learn anything that you didn't know?
A bit, yeah.
Yeah, that was super cool. Rob's been a friend of mine for years, and every time we're at a convention together, we talk about this stuff. And so it was only natural to get him on. He couldn't be with us this morning because they're at a convention, but he was gracious to do it Wednesday night. So anyway, Corey Flood made a comment. Hordak had an army of male and female warriors. Grizzlor, Mantena, Leech, Modalock were dudes. Yeah, but they weren't his inner circle. Everyone in his inner circle, his court, were women. I'm just saying.
The more competent ones were female.
Yeah. There's a whole social message there. Dave Mattingly joined us late. Good morning, Box Stops. Good morning, Dave. And Cartoon Commotion says Brave Star was peak Filmation for sure. Too bad L'Oreal killed it. And, Cade, I'll have to have Rob on again because he can give us a lot of inside scoop on that. But basically, Willow, L'Oreal, the parent company of L'Oreal, bought Filmation and Mattel. And they came into the studios one day and they said, "We're shut down. Go home."
Oh.
Yeah. And they shuttered the entire operation.
They just decided to just do makeup, hair, and cosmetics.
Yeah. I don't even know why they bought the company to shut it down. It's crazy. But anyway, Molly Daniel says geeky jerseys won't let me see the site. Privacy error. I don't know what that's about, but
you might have to turn off the adult locks,
or maybe try a different spelling. Jerseys might be Jerzees. That's pretty common. And let's see other comments. Corey Flood says, "Yeah, but who was in Hordak's inner circle? It was just Hordak, Shadow Weaver, and maybe Catra and Scorpia and Andorra. They were all there's Scorpia, Catra. We had Andorra as the force captain. They were all in his inner circle. And of course, Shadow Weaver, the very amply shaped woman in robes with her veiled face. I'm sure there's what is that rule? 84 rule or rule 34? What is that? Don't answer that.
Yeah, no. So, as another great thing about the show, there was you had to find a character in each episode, and it was called Lu Ki. He-Man had like you spoke about the morals kind of thing after each episode. She-Ra had where in the episode is Luki, and then it would tell you at the end of the episode where he was hiding.
I missed that. That's interesting.
Some of the toys that came out for She-Ra are characters that I had as a kid. Panthera was the character that I was thinking of.
Ah.
So Catra did have a tail, but I had Panthera, not Catra.
See, but that Catra is not the same as what is on screen. Because this is the Catra that is in that picture. Go back to that other frame. This is Catra down here on the right, third row down. That is not this character.
Yeah, I know.
Thinking
about the characters that I had as a kid, I'm kind of I might have to go back and collect some of the newer toys out now so that I have screen accurate.
I'll tell you this. I was never a fan of the He-Man figures, the action figures. I didn't like those squat bodies and the poses that they had them in, but the female characters, like the Teela figure, were the same as these. So they based the She-Ra characters off of Teela and the Sorceress. So these, in my opinion, were superior because they weren't, those squatting muscle men, which I hated, and uncharacteristic to action figures at the time. These were, I don't think they were quite 6-inch. I want to say they were like 5-inch, but it was not common for action figures, even girl action figures, to have real hair.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a standout feature of the She-Ra line. And that's the one lone guy. I think that's Bo. Or is that the other male character, her boyfriend, Seahawk? Do you know?
Yeah.
Molly Daniels said she found a bunch on eBay, on Etsy. Oh, jerseys, geeky jerseys on Etsy. She posted some comments about their website. I'm going to check it out before we post any comments about Geeky Jersey's website. But anyway, so really cool. Last thoughts. Yeah, and Corey agrees that that figure was Bo, and they did not do a Seahawk figure. Look who just joined us as we're about to say farewell.
George.
George Bueller. Good morning, cereal boxers. Good morning, George. Yeah. I'm surprised he's not already at the comic shop, clobbering comics. So, Willow, last thoughts about She-Ra, Princess of Power.
I enjoyed this look back, actually. It was an interesting, I don't know, like, I seem to enjoy like all the cartoons that you tell us to watch, but this one in particular it definitely gave me like a new look, a new look and a new appreciation for the cartoon.
Well, it hit you in the feels.
Yeah. And it wasn't a disappointing look. Let's just say.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you compare properties from the 80s to production values and storytelling values today, it is easy to kind of be disappointed by what our memories don't live up to. But in this case, with the quality of the animation, the quality of the scoring, the quality of the character development, this was...
It still holds up after almost 40 years.
Yeah. Oh, George Bueller says, I actually am at the shop. Watching this from Clobbering Comics. Love it. And Dave Mattingly is at the Oddities and Curiosities Expo in Louisville. That's got to be a fun weekend. Fun times. So here's for next week, Willow.
Yes, sir.
Do you have Netflix?
I do. I have to fix it up though, because apparently my account, I don't know what Netflix did. They were trying to get me to redo an account, and they charged me twice. So,
what I'd like to do is, because next week is He-Man.
Okay.
And we've already talked a lot about He-Man with Rob. We'll watch a couple of episodes, but if you are able to, did you see the Masters of the Universe Revelation series?
I haven't watched it yet, so I will look into watching it.
So it was very good, but the second season, which is called Revolution, and it's only 5 or 6 episodes, was unbelievably good.
Okay.
Unreal good. I would love to do a compare and contrast. We might have to save that till later, but next week we will be talking about He-Man.
Okay.
So kind of taking a step backwards, but Corey Flood said, you didn't mention the best episode, Sweet Bee's Home. We didn't watch it yet. I only watched the first 4 episodes of this story arc. But he said that episode was a hoot. And Cartoon Commotion says, things don't have to hold up in order for us to enjoy them, right? Most all of the tunes I love are from the 80s. So it depends on, Cade, how you approach them, right? Because we get a lot of people who watch older properties from a lens of today, through the lens of today, or from a viewpoint of today's production values. And they don't understand the context of what was produced back in the day. I mean, I personally don't think G.I. Joe holds up. I just don't. I loved it then, and I still love it from a sentimental perspective. Yeah. But if that series were to air as it did then, it would not succeed today. However, I feel like She-Ra could succeed today. So, it just depends on how you approach things. And
Ninja Turtles had its moments too. Like, I watched it just recently, and I'm just like, what the heck did they do?
So, Cartoon Commotion says most of the 80s were real stinkers, but I love them because I grew up watching them. And I would say too that things go in cycles, because before we went on air, we were talking about some of the modern stuff that we just absolutely don't like. Adventures of Gumball, Adventure Time, some of the newer Cartoon Network stuff, like Willow, you mentioned Ren and Stimpy and Duckman, and some of that stuff didn't hold up then for me.
Some of the purposely stupid stuff I just couldn't get into.
Yeah. Molly Daniels says, I think the only 80s cartoon I watched every Saturday was Kid Video. I was in college. Interesting. We'll have to check that one out. I'm not familiar with Kid Video.
Yeah, me either. I hear people talking about it. Why didn't I watch it?
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Corey Flood disagrees. Haha, no way would She-Ra last today. No way. I don't know, Corey. I think kids, as a father, I think kids are more sophisticated than you give them credit for. And in good ways and bad ways. I will say this in defense of that statement, Corey. I did find myself wandering mentally a little bit. It was hard for me to keep my focus watching these episodes. So today's kids are a little bit more used to shorter clips and tighter stories, but I mean that can be fixed in editing. So anyway, just a thought. The animation, the artwork, the scoring, the thoughtfulness of the characters and the backstories absolutely still hold up. Anyway, that's my thought. The prophet has spoken. All right, Willow, it is time for us to go. Any last thoughts?
No, just I'm enjoying these look back and being able to talk about it with you and and the people in our chat.
Now, let me ask you this, Willow. So you've been co-hosting now going on 2 years. Have there been any properties that we've covered that you've been like, oh, I forgot about how much I love that. I want to go out and find it again?
I think that pretty much happens every weekend. Because whenever me and my husband go to the mall and we go into like the record store or like video store or whatever, we go to the wall where all the seasons are, and I'm like, I see like She-Ra and He-Man and like all the other cool stuff, and it's like we try to give ourselves a limit, and sometimes we go over that limit when we buy the seasons. But I know Joe's very much into Voltron, and he introduced me to it. It's actually a really good cartoon.
That Voltron is going to be the first. It's going to be the last in this series. So next week we're doing He-Man. The week after that, we're going to have a week off because it's my anniversary and we're taking a trip out of town. And then the next week, which I think is the 24th, maybe 25th. Okay. That's going to be Voltron, and that's going to wrap up this weekday 101 series.
Okay.
So yeah, I can't wait. Voltron is one of my all-time favorites.
We have the tin, where each season came in, like the little containers. Each tin has like the character, like the robot characters.
Yeah.
And it is fantastic.
That's fantastic. So a couple of last comments. Molly Daniels says pre-1985 Smurfs, Battle of the Planets, my all-time favorite. And I reposted just recently, just for you, Molly, the episode we did about Battle of the Planets in one of the comments in response to you. And after 1985 Sleeping Till Noon, that's funny. Corey Flood also says the Huntara episode from She-Ra is also a good one. Corey, sounds like we need to have you as a guest talking about some of these shows. And at Molly Daniels says Corey Flood, Battle of the Planets still holds up. Okay. Molly Daniels, yes, it does. And she says, I did catch some episodes of Voltron. And Corey and Molly are having a conversation with each other right now. Corey says, I don't think Voltron held up well. Transor Z was surprisingly better than I remember. I don't know Transor Z. Anyway, we'll get to that when we talk about Voltron in a couple of weeks. Until then, everyone make sure you follow Willow at Skylor Productions everywhere you are doing the socials. And you can follow me Actually, follow our show first, backofthecerealbox.fun, and that'll link you to me and everything I do. And if you feel so inclined, please do follow us at backofthecerealbox.fun. That will also link you to our Patreon page. And while we're at it, let's just give some love to our charity partner, Comic Books for Kids.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit cb4k.org.
We love those guys. They are fantastic. If you'd like our show, make sure that you share it with 200-300 of your closest friends and family. Tell them to come join the fun. Like, comment, subscribe, do the things. Become a member at patreon.com/cerealboxpodcast. And until the next time, love you, mean it. We'll catch you on the back of the cereal box.
It's like Coca-Cola, Levi's